Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones, the official prediction. Knuckleheads, welcome to the Fighters Rep, where we give you free fights, interviews, and fight commentary from the mind of a promoter slash attorney. So before I go into this prediction, I want to talk a little bit about the rule set here, because it still looks like the California State Athletic Commission, right, which is the governing body, the body that sanctions the events here in California, which is run through the state of California, is saying that there are not going to be knockouts allowed in this fight. And as a promoter, if I were the promoter of this fight, I would have done whatever I had to do to make sure that that wasn't the case, to make sure that knockouts were allowed, because I think that's what people are going to be tuning in to see when they go ahead and maybe or maybe not drop $50 in pay-per-view money to watch these two guys who are, again, essentially dinosaurs in the world of boxing at this point, each over 50 years old. I think people want to see a knockout, and not being able to have that, or being told that the rule set won't allow for that, is probably going to prevent a lot of people from dropping that $50. So, first and foremost, as a promoter, I wouldn't have done things this way. Let me tell you what I would have done. First and foremost, okay, there are certain medical requirements required of any fighter. And once you pass the age of 40, the medical requirements become more stringent. So I'm not sure if the promoter did this, but I would have gone ahead and had them try to pass the medical requirements for a person over the age of 40 in the state. Typically, it's just a little bit more. You need to do maybe another EKG and so on and so forth, and maybe, get a letter from your trainer and from a doctor and what have you. Now, if that didn't work, and if it's the situation here where that didn't work, they tried doing it and didn't work, then what you could have done is, instead of renting out the Staples Center, right, especially considering no audience is going to be allowed in there. I mean, I'm not sure why you would rent out, an entire stadium unless you've got money to burn. But instead of renting out the Staples Center, I would have gone to another country, or I would have gone to an Indian reservation where the laws are different, and you would be dealing with the gaming commission there, which I think, without a doubt, if you would have done some negotiating, would have allowed for knockouts to happen in this fight. So really, I don't know if it was done on purpose. I don't know if it's ignorance. I really can't tell you guys, but I would not have done this fight this way, okay? Again, I would have either gone to a foreign country, I would have had them either pass their tests and do it right here, or if I were to stay here, I would have done it on an Indian reservation to make sure the fans and the fighters get what they want. Because I can assure you, I could be wrong, but I would imagine that a part of Mike Tyson, at the very least, and Roy Jones Jr. wants to be able to compete and knock each other out. But again, who knows? Maybe they're in it for what it is, a glorified sparring session that's going to make them upwards of $10 million each. That being said, this is an exhibition bout, 2-minute rounds as opposed to 3-minute rounds, 12-ounce gloves as opposed to 10-ounce gloves, and there will be no winner. There will be no winner, but obviously there will be an unofficial winner. One guy will have performed better than the next. Maybe they'll do some goofy little social media voting, questionnaire at the bottom of your screen to ask you who you thought won the fight. And I think the winner of this fight is going to be Roy Jones Jr. Not only has he been way more active and was actually still fighting as a pro just a couple years ago, but beyond that, he's got a height advantage, he's got a reach advantage, I believe he has a speed advantage. The only advantage he doesn't have is power, and to be honest with you guys, in a fight where no knockouts are allowed, and I'm not sure how they're going to enforce that, but in a fight where no knockouts are allowed, what good is that power advantage? This is going to be, if they actually follow the rules of the California State Athletic Commission, a glamorous, glorified sparring session where they're going to be basically going technique versus technique. Now, I say I don't know how they're going to regulate and enforce the no knockout rule because, there are certain amateur rule sets where no knockouts are allowed. And even in those, you've got, a guy maybe slip a hard punch in there or another guy walks into it or what have you, and people get knocked out, people get buzzed, people get stunned, people get rocked. I mean, the shit happens when you throw a punch at somebody, even if you don't throw it full force. If they're walking into it or if you hit them in the sweet spot, they could get knocked out. So, I'm not really sure what happened here. For me, it just seems like a very strange money grab. And it is 2020, and we are in a very strange time. So listen, this is just par for the course for me. The fights I'm actually excited about tomorrow, I wanted to point out, are the Daniel Dubois versus Joe Joyce fight, and also the Danny Jacobs versus Gabe Rosado fight. I think even though Rosado is not really on the same level as Danny Jacobs right now, there's some bad blood there, and you never know what could happen. He's always in a tough fight. And then I really like that Joe Joyce-Dubois fight. So I'm going to give you guys two quick predictions on those. As far as the Danny Jacobs-Gabe Rosado fight, I would say Danny Jacobs is going to win that fight by decision. Potentially by a late stoppage, but I would say decision. I think Gabe Rosado makes it an ugly fight. Hopefully he shows up and gives us a great fight. Regarding Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois, this one's much more interesting. Big-time heavyweight fight out there in the UK. These are two fantastic talents. It's a case where you've got experience against youth. And even though Joe Joyce is the person I'm referring to when I say experience, even though he's got less fights in the pro game than Daniel Dubois, I mean, he's been at it, I imagine, for a longer time. And he's got better experience. I like his opposition better compared to Dubois. He's actually fought some guys, including Kaladze, Stavern, Joe Hanks. Not incredible heavyweights, but guys that are a bit of a higher caliber than the guys Daniel Dubois has fought. This fight is a pick'em fight. There's a lot of momentum on Daniel Dubois' side. But I just feel like Joe Joyce, bigger man, more experience, better experience, and the age difference. I mean, Dubois is only 23 years old. I mean, so maybe he'll have the youth and the gas tank on his side, but that's something Joe Joyce is known for, So when your best attribute is the other guy's best attribute, then is it really an advantage? This fight, listen, a part of me is telling me Daniel Dubois got too much momentum for Joe Joyce at this point, but a part of me is telling me Joe Joyce is just too tough of a guy with too good of a chin and too good of an engine. So here's my prediction on the fight. Let me get to the point. I think Daniel Dubois wins a decision. I don't think this fight ends early. I think Daniel Dubois wins a decision. And I think it's a controversial decision that many people will say Joe Joyce wins. Remember, you heard it here. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow after the fights, Knuckleheads. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it. Join Knucklehead Nation, the most educated fight channel on YouTube, where as you subscribe, click the like button, get your gear in the link below, Fighters Rep shirts, hoodies, masks, whatever, be sure you get them. As you do that, you not only help me build this channel, but the only kickboxing promotion that matters, Fighters Rep Promotion. Knuckleheads, I look forward to hearing what you have to say. It's going to be a fun day tomorrow.